this is something that, being transparent and open is something that I believe in, and it's good for our department, and it's good for you, and that's why we're here today. By the way, I'm Andy Harvey. I'm the police chief here in Pharr, and I want you to know that we understand the sentiment and the attention that this case has drawn, this homicide in our city. So we definitely understand that, and that's why I think it's important to have this conversation once again, to reiterate the facts of the case for what we've learned, and then perhaps maybe clarify some misinformation or some misunderstanding that may be out there as well. I think that's important for everybody. So again, thank you so much for being here. Let me start out by just going back and talking about the case itself. How did we get here where we are today? And then we'll go into some other specifics. So let me just start out with this. There are three suspects involved in this case. Alejandro Trevino, who's 18, Christian Trevino, who's 17, and their brothers. And then Juan Eduardo Melendez is 18, and he's a friend of theirs. On January 20th, around 6 p.m., we were notified by the McAllen Police Department about a case that they were working on involving a deceased male found in South McAllen. Once they opened up this investigation, they found that this stemmed here in our city. And so we were notified, and that's when we met with McAllen detectives, and we decided, and we worked with them, and we took over the case. So the following morning, we officially picked up this homicide. On that same day, on January 21, our January 21st, our detectives met with Alejandro, the 18-year-old, and he talked about a fight that took place at 1201 East Moore it's a trailer park, 140, involving Alejandro and Christian, his brother, with Quintanilla over Alejandro, and what they heard was to be an alleged touch by Christian's, by their stepdad, Quintanilla, with their sister, 9-year-old sister. And so what they learned is that their stepdad had inappropriately touched his 9-year-old, which is their stepsister. Half-sister, which is also important to note that the 9-year-old that was the victim, this is her biological dad. Quintanilla is her biological father. It has a lot of different legs here, so I'm trying to keep everybody kind of up to date here. So this is what happened. They found out about this. There was a fight that ensued there inside the trailer between the two brothers and their stepdad. There was a fight. Stepdad Quintanilla leaves the trailer. He walks out, and shortly right down the road, Christian, the older brother, leaves, catches up to Quintanilla, and there's a fight that ensues. Well, around the same time, Christian and Juan Melendez, the friend, catch up to them. They get involved in the fight, and so there's 3 against 1. So the second assault happened right down the road on Moore. A few minutes later, they leave him there. He's beaten up, but he's still conscious and walking. The 3 leave, drop off Alejandro back at the house. They go to Juan's house, pick up a different car. They picked up a white F-150, and they decide to go back and look for Quintanilla to see if they can find him again. Well, they did. They found him on Veterans Road walking, and so a third assault happened. So this continues, and it's the third time that they meet. Well, what we learn now is that during the second assault, I believe, Christian had some brass knuckles. So brass knuckles were used in these assaults. So they continued to assault Quintanilla, and this time they severely beat him to the point where he's either unconscious or close to it. They then decide to pick him up, kidnap him, put him in back of the F-150 in the bed, and drive off to somewhere in South McAllen. He was dropped off somewhere in the Wayland-McCall area. That's where the McAllen Police Department was called, and that's where they found him later that day. We understand that he was unconscious but breathing at the time, but nonetheless, Quintanilla died there at in the open field. So that's the case as we know it now, and that's where we're at as far as the actual case is concerned. During the investigation, we learned this, is that Quintanilla had a warrant here out of Pharr for continuous sexual abuse. And that was over an unrelated case that we were made aware about back in 2019 involving somebody else, another victim. And what we learned about that case, and obviously you know I can't go into specifics about anything about this case, sexual assault case, especially involving a minor, but I want you to know that it's involving a separate, a different person. But here's what we learned then, is that there was an outcry back in 2019 that another victim was sexually assaulted by Quintanilla back around between 2014 and 2016. So detectives gathered enough information to get a warrant, which they did, and the detectives went out to look for Quintanilla at that time and were unable to find him. They searched, they went to his last known residence, they went to his mother's residence multiple times, and he was being elusive, obviously, and hiding from us. They did not catch him, or we did not find him. So we learned that we were given some inconclusive information about where his whereabouts are, and we understand he could have been near the Corpus area and other areas of the state. So he has been eluding us since then. Let's see. So that's what we know about that. And so here's what I think I want to make the distinction about this case, is that this warrant was for a separate offense, not the 9-year-old. We were not aware of any history between Quintanilla and his 9-year-old girl, which allegedly happened on Wednesday night. So we just don't know, have enough information about that, because that's still an ongoing investigation. So those are two separate incidents. We had not heard from Quintanilla. Obviously, he's been running from us, and we didn't know of him until he was found deceased in McAllen. Second part of this that I want to make sure it's clear is that I know some questions about why is it a capital murder versus just a murder. And it's a capital murder because Quintanilla was kidnapped, right, when he was taken in the back of the F-150 and dropped off somewhere else. So he was kidnapped, and then at the scene where they dropped him off, the Treviños, they got some property, that they removed some property or stole some property from Quintanilla. So that makes it a capital murder. And I know there was some question about that. So again, I just want to reiterate the facts as we know them and kind of what happened thus far as what we know. And I know there was some misunderstandings out there, so I just want to clarify that. Are there any questions I can answer? Anything that I can clarify for you?
Charges are going to be pursued against the mother, wondering if she had any idea about his background when he was on the run.
You know, that's something that's still all part of this open investigation. That is certainly a question that we had, whether or not why we weren't notified and that kind of thing. So there's more questions out there, and that's something that we're still looking into. But as of today, there are no charges against the mother. Go ahead.
Also, was there any history with CPS that you all knew about with this family?
Not that we're aware of, but I know when we investigate something like this, a sexual assault of any kind, if it's involving a minor, we have those conversations with CPS.
Would you by chance be able to tell us when this warrant was signed for the separate case that happened in 2019?
Yeah, it was on May 17th, 2019 is when we learned of it, and shortly thereafter is when the warrant was signed for Quintanilla. Again, right, he eluded us and we just didn't catch him, but we made multiple attempts. We placed his name into a national database and everything that police do in order to catch someone who just, he was eluding us, and so unfortunately we didn't arrest him at that time.
One last question from me.
Sure.
So I understand now that the aggravated circumstance in this case that led to the capital murder charge was the kidnapping that you talked about. I'm wondering if you consulted with the DA at all, or if you guys just went ahead and moved forward, given what you guys know so far?
No, I mean, our detectives know, we know what we're doing, and so when the elements of an offense fit, that's what we charge that person with. And so that's what we did in this case.
As for the 9-year-old girl, is she still with her mother even though she's still being looked into?
Yes. And from here, moving forward, obviously, there's a criminal justice process, right? The system that we have. Our job is to present a case and get the facts for the district attorney's office, and then they will present the case at another time. And so we're still investigating that. That's why it's still open, to provide even more facts to the DA in order to have the case that they need to pursue whatever charges they want to pursue. But that's another whole other area. But we will definitely be working closely with them. But that's where we are today. Any other questions I can answer for any of you?
I think sorry, I thought of one more. Just thinking about the case and how there is a minor involved, was there any just consideration of maybe not identifying certain individuals, maybe the suspects, because of, to protect the minor?
Identifying who, Monica?
The suspects.
When?
Well, once we found, I understand that you guys put it out because, we're looking for it. We didn't know the whole situation of the case, but is there any concerns over protecting the minor's identity?
Well, of course, anytime there's a minor, especially a sensitive case like a sexual assault, we're gonna protect that minor. So absolutely gonna protect them. In this case, these are adults. Although they're only 17 and 18, they're adults in our state, and so that's why we didn't withhold their names, because they're adults. So that's the way the laws work here in our state. So again, right, I just want to make sure, this is very, very important to us, is that perhaps there was a thinking out there or belief that Quintanilla, the dad, was continuously sexually assaulting the 9-year-old. We have no reports of that, no information about that. And although as part of the investigation, we don't have any history about that. The continuous sexual assault warrant was for a separate incident, and I think that's important to this case, and important for you to know about an incident that happened allegedly between 14 and 16. So those two cases were unrelated, and so here we are today. And then of course the other part about the capital murder, that's why it makes it that offense. There were some questions, that's why I'm reiterating those. Anything else? Any other thing I can?
Is there any chance you can say it in Spanish,
Spanish,
please?
yes.
Sí, ahorita vamos a hacer unas entrevistas y después, por favor.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely do this in Spanish here in a minute. But I just want to make sure. Anything else? How about you guys? Yes.
Do we know the relation between Quintanilla and the victim from 4 years ago? Was he also related to them?
Well, we can't say only because the victim's a minor,
Okay.
and we got to protect some of that, right?
Okay.
But again, right, different cases, and so here we are today. I want to also express this, that there's tragedy all around this. There's tragedy around the 9-year-old mother who lost, her husband, but also, now we have 2 and 3, young men who are in jail, and who knows what their future will hold. But there's nothing, it's tragic all the way around. And that's what makes this case so difficult. For us, it's complex. As you see, there's a lot of moving parts. And it's sometimes difficult to investigate these cases and make sure we have all our ducks in a row. But we believe that these are the facts as they are right now, and wanted to make sure that you were clear, we were all clear about what transpired during the last few days.
I know this is an emotional case for many of the viewers that are reading about this. As for the 3 young men, did they express any guilt over what they did?
I don't know. I can't really say much about that. But they were young men, right? And so here's what I want to reiterate. We understand the sentiment around this, right? We get it. We live in the same world you do. So these young men decided to do what they did, and so here we are. But no, I can't say too much about what they said, although they were very cooperative, and they gave us full statements of what happened, and they've been very cooperative in this case. again, thank you very much, and if there are any other questions, you let us know so that we can clarify those and make sure you and the public knows, everything that we know. Because we do believe it's important to be transparent and open, and that's why we're here today. So again, thank you very much.